The world of ML engineering is calling you, and that is exactly what we are talking about today. How can you become a machine learning engineer in 2022? If you are new to this channel, I am Sandro from Data with Sandro, and I have been working as an ML engineer for roughly a year now and worked in other data jobs along the way. And if you are like me once planning to transition from either your university life into the ML engineering world or going from a different job into this exciting field and landing your first job, this video is for you. I'm going to walk you through these steps that I would take if I was starting over today, on what exactly I would be focusing on, and then give you a rough time estimate on how long you should focus on each area, such that you can step by step improve your skills throughout the year. We will finish off with a lot of concrete tips on how to turn these skills into a job offer and where to actually learn them. But first, if you would gently hit that like button, it would really help YouTube show you and others more about our favorite field. And since I believe in a good salary, here have this cute GAN picture as a payment for your video labeling work. The hard skills. I have 7 points to talk about, and number 1 is learning the right set of skills. Honestly, there are a lot of different things that you need to know to become an ML engineer, but the actual hard skills, the actual skills that you will need to transform data, train a model, and most importantly put it into production are essential, and the others are mostly nice to know. These hard skills are what define you, and you really won't get a job as an ML engineer without them. The way I would like to think about your set of skills is a machine learning pipeline, the thing you will have to build, maintain, and constantly improve on in your daily life. Now, what is a machine learning pipeline? It is a piece of computer software that starts by extracting from a data source, then transforming this into a model either for prediction or training, and finally deploying this model such that it can be used by others 24/7, again through various data inputs. The first point shows itself now if we are taking a step back and identify the most important skill that all these boxes have in common, and that is the number 1 skill, being a good software engineer, which is really half of the word ML engineer if you think about it. If you are coming from computer science, congratulations, you're already 50% there. If not, we will look into how to build that set of skills in no time. Programming, data structures, algorithms, and computer architectures will influence everything you do. Being able to write clean, nicely structured code in, let's say, 80% Python, reading from files, logging, and building APIs, writing transformation functions are super useful skills for everything you do. Surely there are a lot of other programming languages like Java and C++ used in the field, but Python is very clearly the dominant language for most ML and data jobs. So software engineering is clearly the number 1 skill you should focus on, just because it influences everything you will work on. Now, from top to bottom, I think R is more of a data science and analyst language, but SQL is a must. If we go back to our pipeline analogy, the entire left part of data preparation is something that you will need to know to get any project going. I would say the minimum you can get away with is knowing pandas and SQL. SQL is everywhere, and a large part of enterprise data is still somewhere in a relational database. Additionally, the SQL syntax is very common through many newer data tools, and you can use it in pandas and Spark, to just name 2. Make sure to at least learn the basics of SQL and how to write a query. Focusing on it for a few weeks is already enough for the start, so no worries. Now, once you extracted our data from a data source, you will probably have a CSV or Parquet file, and you will need some way to transform your data. The industry standard is Pandas, and it will really help you to transform your data into something useful for machine learning. This means normalizing, removing outliers, potentially validating that nothing is wrong with the data, and a lot of feature engineering. While there are cool big data tools for the same job, I would focus mainly on Pandas and some NumPy until you have your first job, simply because its syntax and functionality is the gold standard, and I would absolutely be focusing on that. From here on, similar technologies become more exotic, let's say, and you can learn them on the job. NumPy, I think, is extremely useful and is what Pandas is built on, but pure Pandas will get you there 90% of the time. So keep that in mind. Now that you have your data extracted, transformed and loaded, also called ETL. Let's go to what you all already know is extremely important, and that is machine learning, the ML in ML engineer. Look, I won't go too much into detail, mostly because you already know what is crucial, and if you want to know more, definitely subscribe to this channel to get that extra edge in machine learning. With that being said, understanding the machine learning and the basic mathematics and statistics that make it work and generalize well are super important, and the other half of the job. I would focus on at least sklearn, XGBoost and either TensorFlow or PyTorch in this area. While everyone knows deep learning by now, don't forget to also learn at least about random forest, XGBoost and some linear regression. You will surely find them a lot more in production than you probably expect right now. With ML knowledge also comes knowing how to select a model, which means being able to test your creations on a test set and evaluating them using common metrics like accuracy, recall, F1 and so on to decide on the best set of hyperparameters and model types for your use case. As many say, machine learning is an art form and you can never learn enough about this aspect of your job. But since I know that some of you will be focused on it too strongly, let me just say, do not solely focus on it, since there really is more to the job than just being good at ML. I know we are all fascinated by the lovely algorithms, but keep in mind that it's only 50% of the job or even less. The combination of the hard skills we mentioned so far are really extremely powerful already, and you can probably apply for most jobs out there with just knowing those essential skills, if you know them well. So I would highly recommend spending most of your initial time along those lines. The last part in this pipeline, and probably the most overlooked, and I know I just said you can get a job without it, but your chances of actually getting one dramatically increase when you know this last crucial piece of the puzzle. And that is how to deploy a model, and with it the entire pipeline we just described. I would summarize it as ML Ops, which stands for Machine Learning Operations. It is a set of practices that aim to deploy and maintain ML models in production reliably and efficiently. It basically lives at the intersection of ML, data engineering, which is what I summarized under data preparation, and DevOps. In other words, how can you every first day of the month export your data from your SQL database, transform it with pandas, train a model with TensorFlow on it, and finally deploy it in the cloud with an API. Disclaimer, I will now mention a lot of buzzwords and complicated technologies that will potentially overwhelm you. But don't be scared, because every company will use a different set of these, and I will tell you at the end which ones you really should be focusing on. For context, most companies constantly evolve and replace parts or extend their tech stack at least once per year, and there is no way you can keep track of all of them. With that being said, let's think about our workflow for a second here and say we write our code, push it to GitHub. Once this is done, we have a tool like Jenkins or Airflow that downloads this code using a trigger. It then continues to build a so-called Docker image and deploy it to several clusters using technologies like Ansible, where Kubernetes will manage those pods or containers and expose some API to a user. Now, the reason why we have such pipelines is that they go in circles. So if I push new code to my GitHub repository, the entire pipeline will run again and deploy the new code automatically and hopefully be safe from hackers, for users to immediately use or wait until it's again the first day of the month and Jenkins re-triggers the newest code for training. Confused? That is okay. It is extremely complicated, and sometimes there are hundreds technologies and multiple clouds involved in this process. For your first job, I would say only focus on the most important ones and iterate from there while you work. If you have some spare time, definitely focus on Docker. It is at the heart of most of these technologies, and I think almost everyone is using it. In a nutshell, it is a technology that builds a simple little package that contains all the code you need to run your application in the cloud or on a cluster. Another great, extremely popular category of technologies is orchestration tools such as Airflow or Jenkins. To put it simply, make sure that your code runs, for example, every Tuesday night at 5 in the morning, or when one of your teammates pushes code to a specific Git repository. Well, there are another 1,000,001 things to know. I am sure that if you know these three categories of skills, software engineering, machine learning, and ML ops, you will surely land a job as a machine learning engineer. Where to learn these skills? I put this into its own section such that it won't make the skill section too cluttered. Obviously, a great starting point is anything in the university world, where every bit of subject you choose in data and computer science will be a valuable ally in your job hunt. Try to either choose data science or computer science as a minor. If you are still there and if you have projects such as a bachelor thesis or master thesis, be sure to just run at a problem that requires you to build a machine learning algorithm. You can use this as a project in the portfolio section. If you are not in university anymore, no worries. There are so many great resources out there that it really is not a requirement anymore. If I, for some reason, would forget everything I have learned already and start from scratch, I would start by doing courses, preferably with a certificate at the end. First, start with an informal course on Coursera or just watch YouTube videos on Python until you are able to build scripts that just work. Now, from here on, you are able to tackle actual certificates in the data world. And since I don't want to advertise too strongly for one company, let me just say that the big tech companies Google, IBM, and Microsoft have certificates and courses on almost everything in the data world. They will be challenging, and that's the point. They are really there to make you more valuable on the job market. So my tip to you, pick one company and get a data science, data engineering, or in the best case, an ML engineer certificate. This will also teach you extremely valuable cloud skills, which is a thing I did not mention since most have Google, other AWS and some Azure, and which one you need really depends on the company you apply for. To name just one specific example, the Google Cloud Machine Learning Engineer certificate is something I can personally recommend. It will teach you everything I just mentioned, but be aware that you should know the basics and really focus on software engineering and machine learning before starting with it, since it's not a beginner tutorial. Think of these certificates like the more relevant ones you have, the more companies will love you. But again, be sure to at least have one in each skill category except maybe Python, because that anyway is a requirement for the others. Get work experience. Now, while learning all these skills on your own is surely possible, I would highly encourage you to learn on the job. If you are still in university, many offer the possibility of doing internships, and this is really the best thing you can do to get hired. If you're trying to transition into the field, this also applies to you, but I will give some more potentially better suiting tips after the internship part. For internships, the entry barrier is a lot lower, and there are many very useful paths that you can take towards a junior engineering position. I know that internships as a machine learning engineer are very rare at the moment, and that will surely change over the next years. However, if we think about what an ML engineer really is, we see that it is at the intersection of many other areas that offer internships or job opportunities, such as data science, data engineering, and software engineering. Any job or internship that you can get in these areas should be valuable. Maybe you won't be able to do ML all the time, but there surely is some opportunity to do it a bit while you are working. I personally started with a software engineering internship while studying, and then after my bachelor's did a data science slash data engineering slash software engineering internship in a company. I then continued to get work experience in those fields while studying for my master. If you are already working and not planning to study again, I would try to convince my employer to get some side project that again is somewhere in those areas. Just remember that everything you do with data or software will get you one step closer to becoming a machine learning engineer. I know it can be scary to pitch internal projects to your boss that include machine learning, but if you show him that your solution can save time and you are really motivated, they will surely like it. A very common example is classifying mails that come in and need to be routed to the right person. Often companies have way too many, and some simple machine learning can already save your company a lot of time. So really sit down and think about what easy ML could help your current company. Maybe you end up with a great project for your portfolio and you get paid to work on it. Create an ML portfolio or application. After learning so much, you need to be able to show hiring managers or recruiters that you actually know those skills, and how are you going to do this? Either as mentioned above with working experience, or you need to create a portfolio. Or if you are in university, write papers and conduct projects that will show them that you can do it. You can now either create a website, LinkedIn profile, or a blog where someone can go and look at the qualifications and projects you have done and say, wow, this guy actually knows how to build and bring a machine learning model to production. I personally went through the classical road of getting a master's in computer science and co-authored some small papers. But if you are able to build a functioning machine learning application and deploy it for other people to use, this can truly be one of the biggest things you can do to help yourself get noticed and get a job, and show employers that you know these skills. But it is one of the biggest things people don't do because it's hard to do, and it can take a long time to go from an idea to a model that solves a real world use case. For that reason, I am trying to make it easier for you in the future, and definitely subscribe, because I am planning to build just such a complete project for the world to see in a video series. Create a machine learning engineer resume. The logical next step is to create a resume for a machine learning engineer. And as you already know, you will need a resume or CV to apply to any job that you potentially want to apply for. So take all those skills you have, those certificates and projects that you worked on, and put them on a piece of paper. All these skills and projects will actually create this resume for you. I am not going to lie, but having a degree in some STEM field will also be a bit of a requirement for many jobs. But as with everything in computer science, showing that you can deliver quality projects will also work. If you are looking for more guidance, I do have an entire video that walks you through the process of creating a resume for a machine learning engineer. Really take this video and build your personal CV from scratch. LinkedIn is your friend. Now, since I made this CV video, the importance of LinkedIn for the hiring process has increased dramatically. And I get messages from recruiters and other job hunters every week. So therefore, if you are looking to get a job in the field, I would really also put all the information we have talked about so far on your profile. These certificates and projects will make sure that people notice you and make you pop up on their searches. Many times recruiters will notice you and hopefully be able to help sell you to potential employers. Also, if you are applying, many people will look at your LinkedIn profile and check out what you have done so far, where you have worked, and what you are engaging with in the data community. This is really the first place people tend to stalk you, and making it a good experience for them really can go a long way. How much effort where? So as promised in the beginning, I will put all that we have discussed in this video into a bigger picture, such that you can identify your weaknesses and get onto a good ground level with all those skills. I mentioned it already before, but you should at least have 1 year of experience in programming, data science, data engineering, or a bachelor degree in a STEM field before we tackle the other aspects. I know many people will tell you online that you can do it in months, but even for the most motivated individuals, I would say that just is not realistic. With that being said, I would strongly encourage you to spend at least 1 year in just programming in either case. This can of course be while you're doing your degree work or data science or machine learning projects. Now, after you know your basic ways around programming, going forward, I would split my time 30% programming, 20% machine learning, 20% data science, 15% data engineering, and 15% MLOps. Did I just make these numbers up? Yes, I did, but I can absolutely stand behind them, and it's also hard to come up with something more sensible. Because in the end, all of these aspects include programming and version managing, pick packages, or whatever. I would say as long as you keep your goal in mind and spend all your time building projects from beginning to end, you will get the right time split without thinking too much about it. Why do I mention it then? Well, I feel many people end up only doing machine learning and tuning fancy deep learning models while forgetting the rest. Just be sure to also bring them into production, which is the main difference between a data scientist or AI researcher, and a machine learning engineer. That was a lot to take in, and again, don't be scared, my friends. Take one step each day and you will end up where you want to be in no time. Make sure to subscribe and like this video such that YouTube can give you more useful videos like mine. If you want to have an idea about what concrete things they may ask you in a job interview, I made an entire video about machine learning engineer interview questions, which will give you hints about where you might want to invest more time. This was it with me for the week. Enjoy.